Recording is on. Welcome back. We finished last time. We're up to page 6b at the last line of the page. The Gemara is going to go into different things as to what the Torah has commanded us, given us mitzvahs to do, but the Torah didn't set any amounts, didn't set any limits. So the Gemara starts, Tanan Husam, we learned in a Mishnah somewhere. These are the things that don't have a measurement added to them, meaning it doesn't have a limit. The Gemara is going to go into how much or what the limits. The sages are the ones who added limits, but the Torah itself did not give any limits. So the first one is apaya, and we're going to go over to page 7a. Apaya, which is what needs to be left at the end of the field when you plow, when you cut your harvest, you cut your field, you have to leave for the poor at the edges. And how much needs to be left, the Torah didn't say. The sages said how much, but the Torah didn't say. Babekirim is whatever you need to give away to the kohen from your new produce. That's also the Torah did not set a limit, did not set a number as to how much. V'ra'oyon means going up the 3 times a year. We've been learning till now, the pilgrim that we go up to the Beit HaMikdash. How often, how many times to go within the Yom Tov, the Torah did not mention. The Torah did not even say how long you have to be there. And the Gemara is going to go into details as to what does it mean if there's no limit to it. Is that just visiting, or that also means that there's no limit to the amount you need to spend on the offerings? Gemilas Chasudim, we know what that is. Doing kindness, acts of kindness to other people. There's no limit to that. The Talmud Torah, and there's no limit to learning Torah. The more you learn, the better. But there's no limit. The Torah gave us a mitzvah to learn, but didn't say how much. So the Gemara starts. In the beginning, we wanted to say that when we just learned the word Hura'oyan ein lo shir, does not have any amounts attached to it. Lemala, meaning above. Avayesh lo shir lemata, but it does have a minimum. It doesn't have a maximum. You can go as much as you want, but there's a minimum as to how much you have to pay, the minimum amount. And this is what we have learned, the arguments between Shammai and Basil, how much should be spent for the oil or for the shlomim, which one you should be spending more. So this wasn't the beginning. Reb Oshia Berebe came, the limit, and he taught us, he says that no, there is no limit, no minimum, and no maximum. Whatever you spend is okay. Chachumim say, which is the other sages, that you should spend 1 for the oil and 2 for the Chagigah. And that's according to Basil. And Shammai obviously argues over this. He says that you should be spending 2 for the oil and only 1 for the Chagigah. But the idea is that there's a minimum according to the Chachamim. And Rav Oshi, he holds that there is no minimum either. And obviously everyone agrees that there is no maximum. Okay. So now the Gemara comes back and says, okay, so we learned that there's no limit to the word Harayoyin, but what does it really mean? Ma Harayoyin, what does it mean that the part there's no limit? Rabbi Yochanan says, Riyas Punim Ba'azora, the amount that you come up to be seen, just the fact that you come up to the Beit HaMikdash, you're there, you're being seen. There's no limit as to how long you have to be there. There's no limit as to how many times you can come up. At least 1 time, that's a minimum, but that's it. There's no other limits. The Shluka says, no, we're not talking about just showing your face. We're talking carbon. Every time you come, you should be also with a carbon. And that's what we're talking about with a minimum and a maximum, because on a carbon, there's an amount to be spent. So now the Gemara is going to take this a little more detailed. The first day of Yom Tov, everyone agrees that when you come up the first time, the first day of Yom Tov, you cannot come empty-handed. You have to come up with a carbon. Keep lige, when do they argue? Bishar Yemosar Regel, on the other days of the Yom Tov. Okay, one would say, Kol Haicha de Usa va'aisa. Oh, I've confused here. Let me backtrack. So they're only arguing on the other days of Yom Tov when you come your second and third and fourth time if you still have to bring your carbon or you can come without a carbon then. That's one. The second thing the Gemara is stating here is Kol Aicha de Usa va'aisa. Every time you come and you bring, okay, they're not arguing that it's accepted. If you're offering, you're coming and you're offering, okay. Keep lige the usai v'lo that he can't, that you come up and you did not bring an offering. That's when their argument is. Rabbi Yochanan would say, that you are allowed to come up to be seen. Every time you come, you don't have to bring every time an offering as well. You're allowed to come without another offering. At every time you come up, you have to bring an offering with it. Every time you come, you also have to bring an offering. Now, the Gemara is going to backtrack later in all of this. But for now, we're in the thought process. We're figuring out as to what does heroyan mean and what is really the difference between Rabbi Yochanan and Shlukish. So what we want to state now, what we want to say is that Rabbi Yochanan would say, you're allowed to come the other days of Yom Tov without bringing an offering, and Shlukish says no. But the first day of Yom Tov, everyone says the first time you come, you have to bring an offering. Okay. So the Gemara is now going to challenge one another. So Rabbi Yochanan is going to not challenge, the Shlukish is going to challenge Rabbi Yochanan as to how can you say that they can come without an offering. It says in the Pusik, that when you come up to be seen, you should not come empty-handed. Umalai. So Rabbi Yochanan answers, yes, the Ikar Regel, that Pusik is talking about the first day Yom Tov. First day Yom Tov, we all agree you can't come empty-handed. But once you brought an offering, you can come many times. You're already here. You already brought your present. It's like a guest that comes. The first time they come in, they bring something. But then they can come in and out while they're still around, and they don't bring every time they walk into the door. So he said, it's the first day of Yom Tov is when you bring the offering. So he brings another question. He asks another question. It says, you should. It says this. All this says now in another Gemara, another Beraisa. You should not see my face empty-handed. Bezvuchem. That you have to bring something that could be slaughtered, like an animal. So that Beraisa continues. Ato I'm a bezvuchem. So you're saying it should be something that should be slaughtered. Or I know because maybe a present is also good if I bring a bird, or if I bring a bread offerings. When there's no slaughtering there, a bird is being burned on the altar, but you're not slaughtering the bird. It's only for meat that you slaughter the animal. So the Gemara answers at everything at that price. The Gemara answers with Dinhi. We learn it. We're talking about two offerings here. The offering that you're bringing for yourself, which is Chagigah, and then there's the offering that goes to Hashem. Just like when you bring something for yourself, you have to bring something that's meat, because meat is what brings a happiness for Yom Tov. And therefore, when we're talking about Zevuchim, the offering to Hashem also needs to be meat. You can't just bring a bird or bread offerings. It has to be meat. So now that we have learned all this, the Gemara is coming back. Oh, sorry. The Gemara still continues here with the offerings. How do we know with what they were? So Muhan Zevuchim. What are considered Zevuchim? Oilers. So we say an oiler. Oiler, which is the offering that we bring for the Oilers Re'iyah. So the Gemara is challenging that. Ato omer oilus, you're saying it means the oila or eine ele shluma. Maybe it means the shlumim, which is not just being totally burned on the altar, something that goes to the owners as well. So that Baraisa continues, Vidini, we learn it, Nemer Chagigah lehadya, the same way as before. Chagigah has been said to be given to the owners, to the hadiyah, V'nemer re'iyah legevoyah, and the re'iyah goes for Hashem. Ma Chagigah mirer edyet beruiloi. Just like when you bring an offering to a human being, you bring something that's presentable, that's good for him, which is meat, which is more than chicken. Is the same thing that when you bring to Hashem has to be compared to what you're bringing to yourself. And another thing we learn behind Bedin, and also another thing that it only makes sense, your table is going to be filled with meat, and your master's table empty. So therefore, from all these things, we have learned that you should not come empty-handed when you come to Hashem. Because when you come the second time and third time, why do you come? You must probably be bringing another shlumim so that you have meat for yourself. So if you're bringing meat to yourself, why don't you bring something for Hashem as well? So from all of this, he's like trying to challenge Rabbi Yochanan. How can you say that he can come empty-handed? So Rabbi Yochanan answers the same thing as he answered before. Omalai answers, that's only the first day of Yom Tov. The first day of Yom Tov, you're very right. Whatever he does for himself, he should keep in mind to do that for Hashem as well. But the other days of Yom Tov, there is no obligation. You're allowed to come, and you're even allowed to bring another offering for yourself, to have more meat, to have more shlomim, and you're not obligated to bring something, another oiler for Hashem. Okay, the third question. So this was two questions that Resh Lakish challenged Rabbi Yochanan. And now comes the third one. I survive. Another question we learned. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yossi Hida says, Shulash Regulim Bashunu, 3 holidays or 3 times a year, and Stavi Yisru Lalas Berego, are the Yidden obligated to go up on the holiday? The Chag HaMatzos, the Chag HaShviyos, 3 times a year, the holidays of Passover, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And the Gemara is going to elaborate. What does it mean? You shouldn't be coming chatzon. Chatzon, the translation means in groups. Don't come in groups. Why? Because it says, Kol zechilchu, all males, all the men should come. So therefore, don't come in groups. Come together with everyone. And you should not be seen empty-handed. You should not be seen as you come without nothing. Because it says that you shouldn't be seen empty-handed. You should come and bring something. So again, another question from another place, which is really the same posuk. It's just that we see that we should come all together and we shouldn't be empty. So he says, Rabbi Yochanan answered the same answer. Yes, all of this is talking about the first day of Yom Tov. First day of Yom Tov, we all agree you cannot come empty-handed. You have to bring something. But the other days of Yom Tov, Rabbi Yochanan would still hold that you're allowed to come without bringing another oil. Now, Rabbi Yochanan is going to challenge back Resh Lakish. So we had 3 questions, Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, and now we're coming one back. I survived Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan is challenging back. It says, Yairua Yira. We're learning, one of the things we have learned from this before, that a person who is blind in one eye is exempt from the obligation of going. Why? Because you have to be seen the way you are being seen. Hashem is seeing you with his full strength. A human should be able to see Hashem with both of his eyes. But now we're learning another thing from these. Yarua Yira, we can compare another thing. Ma'ani b'chena. Just like when you come up to see Hashem, it's free. Hashem is not obligated to give us a present then. We're obligated to bring him. As it says, we shouldn't come empty-handed. But he is not giving us anything, at least not in a physical thing. Obviously, we're getting spiritual and the bruchas, but we're not getting something physical that's given. so you can also come free, meaning you don't always have to bring something. Here, Resh Lakish got stuck. He had no answer. So the Gemara is going to now say, okay, so this is not their argument. Let's try to twist it a different way and see maybe this is what their argument was. Because this is all the thinking process. Remember, when the Gemara is sharing with us all these questions and answers, it's to teach us to think like Hashem, to teach us to think the way the Torah wants us to think. That's why all of this Gemara, we're going back and forth. So whatever we learned until now, the argument between our Shlukish and Rabbi Yochanan is something different. Eidel, let's do something else. Kol Eise, Kol Haiche de Use V'lo Eise. Every time that you would come up and you would not bring, Kila Alma Loi Pliege de oil. Everybody would say, okay, it's good. The Mischaza V'nufik, that you can come and you can go, and everyone agrees to that. Ki Pliege, when do they argue? The Use V'eise. That when he comes and he brings. Okay, so now what's the argument? Rabbi Yochanan, the Omar Iyespun Bazura, Rabbi Yochanan, the one who says that when you are allowed to come without offerings, or you can come without offerings, he da ein loshir. On the actual seeing, there is no limit. Abahul karbon, but to the offerings, yesh loshir. There are limits to the offerings. You're not allowed to bring more. There's a maximum. The Shluka says, the Re'iyah where there is no limit is on the offerings. That even for the offerings there are no shear. So how does it work? It works like this. First day of Yom Tov, everyone agrees you have to bring it. You cannot allow to come without it. Okay? The rest days of Yom Tov, or the second visit, the third visit, Rabbi Yochanan says you're allowed to come, but you're not allowed to bring another offering. And the Shlukish says, yes, you're allowed to bring another offering as well. Okay, so the argument is now if they're allowed to bring another offering. So now the Gemara is going to try to challenge this as well. Now we're thinking this is their argument. If you're allowed to bring more for the other visits, I'll bring you a question. It says, I want to bring up this pusik. I wonder if I can pull it up here real quick. It's in Tanakh, and it's in Mishli. So Mishli is written by King Solomon. He says you should pick up your foot, meaning don't stay too long in your friend's house. Why? Maybe you'll get fulfilled, meaning you'll get enough of him, you get full, and then he's gonna hate you. So don't come too often. So the Gemara is wanting to use this as a metaphor to coming to offering to Hashem. Don't come and bring more and more and more offerings. That it's a bad thing to do that. He's gonna hate you for that. So the Gemara answers, yeah, it's a good comparison. Meaning, yes, you shouldn't be bringing a lot of offerings, but not an offering of a thank you. It's talking an offering for atonement, for a sin. Hashem says, stop sinning, stop bringing me offerings for those sins. Don't keep on bringing me offerings for sins, but offerings for thank yous, that you're allowed to bring. So the question the Gemara wanted to ask here that, hey, you should not be bringing offerings every time you come. That only means for sin offerings. And the Gemara brings proof to that. Like we have learned from Rabbi Levi, the Rabbi Levi learned, it says in one pusik, which means don't come often to your friend. And it says in the other pusik, you should come and bring offerings, bring oilers. So there's contradictory here. One pusik says don't come, and one pusik says come and bring. So the Gemara answers, it's not a question. When it says you should not be bringing a lot of offering, it's talking offerings that are for sin atonements. And Hashem says, don't sin so much. These are thank you offerings in gratitude for Hashem. Those you can bring. The more, the better. And the Gemara brings even more proof. We even learned this in another place. That the pusik that you should not be visiting too much. Those are talking about sin atonements. But you're telling me that it's for sin? And maybe that also refers to which are brought for thank yous and for appreciation. So it can't be. Why? Because she's saying in another place that you should come and bring oilos. That you will be paying your promises, you will be paying your pledges. So you say clearly, Harai oilos, Ishlomen, Omer. So the Pusik is really talking about oilos. So what could this mean? What could this be? What could it mean that you should not be coming to visit? Has to be it's talking for sin atonements. I think I'm going to do another little piece because there's a Mishnah coming up right here. So I'm going to pause by the Mishnah, even though we've done quite a lot today. We've done the whole page of 7b. So we have learned before, V'ain niruin chatzuan. You should not be coming, and I said, I already gave it away, that it means you shouldn't be coming in groups. I'm trying to see where. Okay, whatever. You should not be coming in groups. What does it mean? So Rabbi Yosef, remember, Rabbi Yosef wanted to say, for someone who has 10 kids, don't bring the first day 5 kids, and then tomorrow you come back and you bring another 5 kids. Don't do that. Bring all 10 together. We're going over to page 7b. So Abaye said, Pshita, this is self-understood. You're going to teach your kids, these kids are sinners. They have the ability of coming the first day, but they're pushing it off to the second day because I'm only bringing 5 today. And you're teaching your kids bad behavior. These kids, the first 5 that you're bringing along, you're teaching them to be zerizin. But the other 5, you're teaching them bad stuff. It's not to be done so, and it's self-understood. You don't need a pusik for that. So what does it mean? So what does the pusik come to teach us? The means according to the others. There are the others who say. So where do we see that? The Tanya we learned. The Chayim say hamakamatz, hamatzuruf nechoshes, v'abisri. These are different types of jobs. Makamatz, I think someone who collects together species of dogs, cleans the streets. Mamatzaref nechoshes is someone who welds copper. V'abisri, these are jobs. Someone who works with leather, I think, abisri. These are jobs that the people who do these have a bad smell, and it's hard for other people to be around with them. So these people are petitim minariya. They are exempt from having to come up. Why? Because it says, Kol zechirchu, you have to be able to come together, all males together. Misha yuchad lalos and kol zechirchu. So it means only those who are able to come together. Yotzi Aile comes to exempt those who have bad smell. People cannot stand next to them. They're being pushed away. Those people are exempt from coming up because that's what's going to make them look chatzuan. That's going to make them look like in groups because they can't stand together. Okay, so that's where we're finishing. We're going to start here a new Mishnah. And with this Mishnah, I'm going to bookmark for next time. With this Mishnah, we're moving along now as to what monies can be used for each of these offerings. So thank you so much for joining. And let me pause here.